For 35 years, she called me dependable. Turns out that meant easy to lie to. So I teamed up with her lover's wife, broke into his office at midnight, and copied every stolen dollar and transaction trail. We went to the FBI. Before we begin, please subscribe, and I'd love to know where in the world are you listening from. You think you know someone after 35 years? You think you've mapped every corner of their heart, cataloged every sigh, memorized the way they take their coffee and the sound they make when they're truly content. You think marriage is a fortress you've built together, brick by brick, year by year, weathering storms and celebrating quiet victories. Then one whispered name under anesthesia shatters it all. The fluorescent lights at Cedar Heights Medical Center buzz with that particular hospital frequency that makes everything feel suspended in time. It's late October in Bloomington, Minnesota, and the trees outside are putting on their final show before winter strips them bare. I'm holding Karen's hand as they wheel her into pre-op, her fingers cool but steady in mine. At 62, I've learned that the small gestures matter most in a long marriage. Being present, staying through the procedure, making sure she doesn't wake up alone. Just routine arthroscopic work, Dr. Martinez had explained earlier. She'll be groggy for a few hours, but home by evening. Karen had squeezed my hand then, that familiar smile playing at the corners of her mouth. After 35 years, I still love that smile, even though it's appeared less frequently these past few years. Marriage has seasons, I tell myself. We're just in a quieter one. I settle into the uncomfortable visitor's chair beside her bed, watching the monitors trace her vital signs in steady green lines. The anesthesia works quickly. Her breathing deepens, becomes rhythmic, peaceful. I remember our 30th anniversary, how we danced in our living room to Sinatra's "The Way You Look Tonight," the same song from our wedding. She'd worn the blue dress I bought her for Christmas, and for a moment we were young again, spinning slowly in the lamplight while snow fell outside our windows. The trust runs deep between us, worn smooth by decades. We've weathered my job changes, her mother's long illness, the kids leaving home, the inevitable drifting that happens when life settles into comfortable patterns. She's been more distant lately, absorbed in book clubs and yoga retreats, but I've attributed it to empty nest syndrome. At 59, Karen deserves to rediscover herself. I've always believed in giving her space to grow. Then she whispers it, "Where's my Oliver?" The words slip out soft and yearning, barely audible above the mechanical hum of the hospital room. I freeze. Oliver. I replay the name in my mind, searching through 35 years of shared conversations, mutual friends, family connections. Nothing. The name lands in my consciousness like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples in all directions. "Who's Oliver?" I murmur back, but she's already deeper under, lost to whatever dream holds her now. The nurse at the monitoring station doesn't react. Nobody else seems to notice. But that tone in her voice, it wasn't confusion. It was longing, intimate, the way she used to say my name when we were young and everything felt possible. I stare at her sleeping face, still beautiful after all these years, and suddenly it feels foreign. My thumb has been drawing small circles on the back of her hand, a gesture so automatic I barely notice it anymore. Now I stop. Her hand lies still in mine, and for the first time in decades, I don't know what to do with it. The air in the room feels thinner. Something fundamental has shifted, like the moment before an earthquake when animals sense what humans cannot yet feel. I try to rationalize it away. Anesthesia makes people say strange things. Remember random names from television or books, but my engineer's mind, trained to analyze systems and identify failures, keeps circling back to that tone. The intimacy in it, the familiarity. Oliver. The name echoes in the antiseptic quiet, and I realize that everything I thought I knew about my life might be built on a foundation that's already cracking. Karen stirs in the recovery bed 2 hours later, her eyes fluttering open with that disoriented look people get coming out of anesthesia. The procedure went perfectly, Dr. Martinez tells us. 6 weeks of physical therapy, and she'll be good as new. I nod and smile, playing the role of the relieved husband, but that name still burns in my chest like acid. "Hey there, sleepyhead," I say, brushing a strand of gray blonde hair from her forehead. "How are you feeling?" She blinks slowly, focusing on my face. Tired. Weird. Like I'm floating. Her voice is thick, words slightly slurred. Did I say anything embarrassing while I was under? The question hangs between us. I study her face, looking for something I've never had to look for before. Deception. "You mentioned someone named Oliver," asked where he was. I watch her reaction carefully. For 35 years, I've been a casual observer of my wife's expressions. Now I'm a forensic analyst. Her eyebrows furrow in what looks like genuine confusion, but there's something else there too. A tightness around her eyes that lasts maybe half a second too long. "Oliver?" She lets out a weak laugh. "I don't know any Oliver. Must have been the drugs making me say weird stuff. I barely remember anything." She reaches for my hand, and her fingers are warm now. Alive. "Did you stay the whole time?" Of course I did. But even as I say it, I'm cataloging the micro-expressions, the way her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes, the slight tremor in her voice when she repeated the name, how her fingers twitched almost imperceptibly. In my engineering career, I learned to spot system anomalies by paying attention to the smallest irregularities. Karen's reaction isn't clean. There are glitches in her response pattern. I help her get dressed, steady her as we walk to the car, maintain the careful choreography of a long marriage. But something has changed in me. The trust that once felt unshakable now feels naive. That night, as Karen sleeps deeply in our bed, the pain medication knocking her out completely, I find myself staring at her phone on the nightstand. She's always been careless with technology, finding passwords and security measures annoying. "Life's too short for all that paranoia," she'd say, whenever I suggested better digital hygiene. Her phone sits there unlocked, screen glowing with a photo of our golden retriever, Max, who died 3 years ago. Innocent, familiar, but now it feels like a door I've never thought to open. My hands shake as I pick it up. In 35 years of marriage, I've never violated her privacy, never read her messages, never checked her email, never questioned where she went or who she saw. Trust was our foundation. But foundations can crack, and when they do, you have to inspect the damage. The recent messages show the usual suspects: her sister Linda, her book club friends, confirmations for doctor appointments. Nothing suspicious. But then I see it, halfway down the list: Oliver Dean Whitmore. The name hits me like a physical blow. I open the thread with trembling fingers. The messages go back months, hundreds of them. "I miss you, counting the days until I can hold you again." He still doesn't suspect a thing. Total creature of habit, just like you said. Next weekend's still on, right? I booked the cabin in Lake Geneva. God, I love the way you laugh. It's like music I've been waiting my whole life to hear. I scroll up, reading weeks of exchanges that reveal a parallel universe I never knew existed. They joke about my predictable routines, my safe choice in restaurants, my habit of falling asleep watching the news. Karen calls me dependable but boring in one message. In another, she writes, "Sometimes I feel like I'm married to a schedule instead of a man." Each message is a small knife, but the worst ones are the tender ones, where she talks about feeling alive for the first time in years, about discovering parts of herself she thought had died. She writes about weekend getaways I thought were visits to her sister, about wine tastings that were apparently intimate dinners, about yoga retreats that were romantic escapes. I find myself in our bathroom at 2 in the morning, vomiting up the hospital cafeteria sandwich I'd choked down hours earlier. The fluorescent light flickers overhead, and I catch my reflection in the mirror. Gray-haired, reliable Jack Holbrook, systems engineer, husband, father. The man who never questioned, never suspected, never saw the storm building in his own house. Back in the bedroom, Karen sleeps peacefully, her breathing soft and even. The pain medication has erased the stress lines from her face, making her look younger, almost innocent. But innocence is a luxury I can no longer afford to believe in. I transfer the photos and messages to an encrypted flash drive, a habit from my engineering days when backing up critical data was second nature. Then I search for Oliver Dean Whitmore online. LinkedIn shows a polished financial advisor based in Chicago, 47 years old, married with 2 children. His profile picture shows a man with confidence in his eyes and silver threading through dark hair, handsome in that effortless way some men are, the kind who probably never had to work for attention. His company website features testimonials about his expertise in wealth management and charitable giving strategies. There are photos of him at charity galas, shaking hands with local politicians, accepting awards for community service. He looks like the kind of man who makes everything appear easy, who can charm a room without breaking a sweat. I create a new folder on my encrypted laptop, Truth. Inside, I methodically organize screenshots, photos, timeline data, location information. If my marriage is a system that's failed, then I need to understand exactly how and why. I need documentation, evidence, proof that the life I thought I was living was actually something else entirely. As dawn breaks over Bloomington, Karen stirs in her sleep. She murmurs something soft and indistinct, and for a moment I think she might say that name again. Instead, she whispers, "My love," in a tone I haven't heard directed at me in years. I stand by the window, watching the sunrise paint our suburban neighborhood in gold and amber. For 35 years, I've been a man who valued stability, routine, the quiet satisfaction of a life well-ordered. I've been proud of being dependable, of being the kind of husband women could count on. But dependable men, I'm learning, are easy to deceive. We see what we expect to see, trust what we want to trust, accept what feels familiar. We mistake routine for intimacy, presence for connection, silence for contentment. The USB drive feels cold in my pocket, heavy with the weight of digital betrayal. Karen chose the wrong man to underestimate. She saw my methodical nature as weakness, my trust as naivety, my love as complacency. What she didn't realize is that the same systematic thinking that made me a good engineer, the ability to analyze complex problems, identify root causes, and implement solutions, would eventually turn its attention to the most important system in my life, our marriage. The morning light streams through our bedroom window, illuminating the woman I've shared my life with, and I finally see her clearly. Not as the wife I imagined, but as the stranger she's chosen to become. The question isn't whether I can forgive her. The question is whether the man she betrayed still exists, or if he died the moment she whispered another man's name in her drugged sleep. I close the laptop and head downstairs to make coffee, beginning what I now understand will be the most difficult project of my life. Figuring out what to do with the truth. The decision crystallizes on a Tuesday morning while Karen hobbles around the kitchen making pancakes, playing the role of recovering wife with Oscar-worthy dedication. She hums softly, something she hasn't done in months, and for a moment, watching her flip pancakes in her favorite blue robe, I almost convince myself this is all a terrible misunderstanding. Then her phone buzzes on the counter, and I catch a glimpse of the name on the screen. Oliver. She glances at me, then casually flips the phone face down. "Probably spam," she says with a laugh that sounds rehearsed. "You know how these robocallers are getting so sophisticated these days." That's when I know, not just that she's cheating, but that she thinks I'm stupid. The realization doesn't hurt anymore. It clarifies. I've spent 3 days analyzing the digital evidence like it's a system failure at work, mapping the timeline of deception with the same methodical approach I once used to troubleshoot network crashes. But analysis without action is just intellectual masturbation. It's time to move from diagnosis to solution. That evening, I tell Karen I'm going to visit my old colleague, Mike, in Chicago. Maybe catch a Cubs game. She brightens at this news, probably already planning her weekend with Oliver. That sounds wonderful, honey. You haven't seen Mike in ages. Take your time. The drive to Chicago gives me 2 hours to refine my plan. I'm not going to confront Oliver directly. That would be emotional, messy, unpredictable. Instead, I'm going to do what any good systems analyst does when they discover a security breach. Follow the protocols, document everything, and ensure all affected parties are notified. Lake Forest, Illinois, is the kind of upscale suburb where successful people build lives that look perfect from the outside. The Whitmore house sits on a tree-lined street, a colonial revival with meticulous landscaping and a BMW in the driveway. I park 2 blocks away and wait, feeling like a character in one of those psychological thrillers Karen loves to read. At 6:30, a woman emerges from the house, mid-40s, auburn hair, wearing yoga clothes. She loads 2 kids into a minivan with the efficiency of someone juggling carpools and soccer practices. This must be Sophia Whitmore, the wife who, like me, probably has no idea her marriage is built on quicksand. I follow at a distance as she drives to the elementary school, drops off the kids, then heads to a Starbucks in downtown Lake Forest. She sits alone in a corner booth, scrolling through her phone with the kind of distracted focus that suggests she's avoiding something. Perfect. I drive back to their house and slip the envelope under their front door. No return address, no note, just 8x10 photos of Karen and Oliver at various locations. Holding hands at a jazz bar, kissing outside a restaurant, walking into a hotel together. The images are clear, undeniable, devastating. Then I wait in my car, parked where I can see the house but remain invisible. At 8:15, Sophia returns with the kids. At 8:47, she opens the front door and sees the envelope. I watch through binoculars as she tears it open on the porch, her body going rigid as she flips through the photos. She storms inside, and even from 2 blocks away, I hear the explosion. "You bastard! Who the hell is she?" Glass shatters. A door slams. "Don't lie to me, Oliver. I have the proof right here." 20 minutes later, I receive a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the Elm Tree Cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. I know what they've done. S." I don't respond immediately. Instead, I drive to a hotel near O'Hare and spend the night researching everything I can find about Sophia Whitmore. LinkedIn shows she's a marketing consultant with her own firm, specializing in nonprofit organizations. Her Facebook, what little isn't private, suggests someone who values family, community involvement, the kind of person who probably believed in her marriage the same way I believed in mine. The Elm Tree Cafe in downtown Evanston feels like neutral territory, artsy, quiet, the kind of place where 2 strangers can have a conversation that might change both their lives. Sophia is already there when I arrive at 1:55, sitting in a back booth with sunglasses on despite the cloudy October day. No makeup, coffee half finished. She looks like someone who hasn't slept. "You're him," she says as I slide into the booth across from her. It's not a question. "I'm him." She slides a photo across the table. Karen and Oliver at what looks like a romantic dinner, candles between them, his hand covering hers. "How long?" 3 years, maybe longer." We compare timelines like forensic investigators, weekend trips that lined up with each other's absences, late nights at the office that coincided with unexplained distances. The lies stack perfectly, each one supporting the others in an architecture of deception that would be impressive if it weren't so personally devastating. "I thought it was just an affair," I tell her. until I found Karen's name on some business documents. Sophia's eyes sharpen. What kind of documents? Shell companies. Non-profits that don't seem to do much except move money around. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a USB drive. I've been suspicious about Oliver's finances for months. He started this charity called Arcturus Global Wellness Fund last year. Your wife is listed as a board advisor. You've been investigating him. Divorcing him, she says, or at least I was planning to. But now... She pauses, studies my face. Now I think we might have bigger problems than cheating spouses. She explains what she's found. Offshore accounts, wire transfers to entities that exist only on paper, tax documents that don't match the financial statements Oliver keeps at home. It's sophisticated fraud, the kind that requires multiple people and careful planning. Karen isn't just sleeping with your husband, I realize. She's helping him steal. And your wife isn't just cheating on you. She's building an exit strategy that leaves you holding the bag for whatever financial crimes they've committed together. We sit in silence for a moment, two people whose worlds have imploded in ways we're only beginning to understand. Then Sophia leans forward, and I see something in her eyes that matches what I feel in my chest. Not just hurt, but resolve. "What do you want to do about it?" she asks. "I want the truth. All of it. And I want them to face consequences. Legal consequences. If that's where the evidence leads, yes." She extends her hand across the table. "Partners?" I shake it. "Partners." We spend the next hour planning. Sophia knows Oliver's schedule, his habits, where he keeps his files. I have access to Karen's digital life and the systematic thinking needed to build an airtight case. We agree on 3 objectives: collect irrefutable evidence of the financial fraud, expose both Karen and Oliver, and do it legally without tipping them off until the moment of reckoning. "There's one thing," Sophia says as we prepare to leave. "Oliver's been paranoid lately. He hired a private investigator to follow me, thinking I might be having an affair. If he's watching me, he might start watching you too." As if summoned by her words, I notice a black sedan across the street from the cafe, the same one I saw parked near my house yesterday morning. The driver sits behind tinted windows, but I can see the outline of a camera. "They already are," I tell her. We split up, leaving through different exits. I duck into an alley and call her from a burner phone I bought on the drive down. "They're definitely watching. We need to move faster than planned." "How much faster?" "This weekend. Oliver's speaking at some financial conference. If we're going to get into his office files, it has to be soon. That's risky. Everything's risky now, but they made one crucial mistake." "What's that?" "They underestimated us. Oliver thinks you're just a suspicious wife, and Karen thinks I'm just a boring husband who'll never figure it out. They're about to learn that boring people make very thorough enemies." I drive back to Bloomington that night, my mind already 3 steps ahead, calculating risks and variables like I'm designing a complex system. But this isn't about networks and servers anymore. This is about justice, and the systematic dismantling of 2 people who thought they could rebuild their lives on the wreckage of ours. Karen greets me at the door with unusual warmth, asking about Mike and the Cubs game I never attended. I lie easily now, surprised by how natural deception feels once you start practicing it. She seems relaxed, almost giddy, probably because she spent the evening planning her next rendezvous with Oliver. "I'm glad you had a good time," she says, kissing my cheek with lips that have been kissing another man for 3 years. "Me too," I tell her. It was exactly what I needed. That night, as she sleeps beside me, I stare at the ceiling and think about partnerships. For 35 years, I thought Karen and I were partners. Now I understand what real partnership looks like. 2 people working toward the same goal, trusting each other completely, sharing both the risks and the rewards. Sophia Whitmore and I have that now. and Oliver and Karen are about to discover what happens when they face an alliance they never saw coming. The text arrives at 9:52 p.m. on Thursday. Conference moved up. He leaves for Milwaukee tomorrow morning. We go tonight. S. I'm sitting in my home office, pretending to work on a consulting project while Karen watches some reality show in the living room. The sound of manufactured drama drifts down the hallway, people screaming at each other over problems that will be resolved in 60 minutes. If only real life were that simple. I text back. I'll be there by 11:30. Karen doesn't even look up when I tell her I'm going out to buy milk. Drive safe, she murmurs, absorbed in watching someone else's relationships implode on screen. The irony would be funny if it weren't so pathetic. The drive to Chicago feels different this time. Not nervous energy, but focused determination. Sophia and I have spent 2 days planning this down to the minute. We know the security codes, the camera locations, which files to prioritize. We've rehearsed contingencies and backup plans. What we're about to do is technically breaking and entering, but it's hard to feel guilty about investigating crimes that have already been committed against us. Downtown Chicago at night has a different personality. Less corporate polish, more raw energy. The towers of glass and steel that look impressive in daylight become anonymous monoliths after dark, perfect for activities that require invisibility. Whitmore Strategic Advisors occupies the 14th floor of a building that screams expensive taste and client confidence. Sophia meets me in the parking garage, dressed in dark clothing and carrying a messenger bag that looks professional enough to avoid suspicion if we're seen. Security cameras? I ask. Disabled the ones on our floor. The others will show 2 consultants working late, which happens all the time in this building. Exit strategy? Same way we came in. If something goes wrong, we split up and meet back at the Starbucks on Michigan Avenue tomorrow morning. We take the elevator to 14 in silence. The office suite is all glass and chrome, designed to impress clients with Oliver's success and sophistication. Motivational posters about wealth building and financial freedom hang on the walls, like propaganda. Sophia leads me to Oliver's corner office, using his access card to override the lock. Inside, it's exactly what I expected. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, diplomas and awards covering one wall. Family photos carefully arranged to suggest a man with his priorities in order. Computers here, I tell her, pulling out the bootable USB I designed specifically for this moment. Cover the hallway cameras while I work. Oliver's password protection is amateur hour, probably because he never expected his wife to team up with a systems engineer. Within minutes, I'm inside his file system, copying everything to encrypted drives. What I find makes my stomach turn. This isn't just adultery with a side of financial irregularities. This is systematic fraud on a scale that could destroy dozens of families. Jesus Christ, I whisper, scrolling through folders labeled Charity Operations and Private Equity, Arcturus. What is it? Sophia asks from the doorway. They're not just stealing money. They're stealing from charities, cancer research, children's hospitals, disaster relief funds. Oliver's been skimming from nonprofit donations and funneling the money into offshore accounts. I keep digging. Karen's name appears on document after document, not as a victim, but as a co-conspirator. She's signed contracts, authorized transfers, helped establish shell companies in 3 different states. Here, I call Sophia over to the computer. Look at this email thread from last month. The messages between Oliver and Karen read like a business correspondence between partners planning a major acquisition, except the acquisition is my life savings and retirement fund. Phase 1 complete by November 1st, Oliver writes. Kay's signature on the Cayman account clears the last regulatory hurdle. Karen's response. Jay suspects nothing. I've started mentioning how expensive his medication might become as he ages, planting seeds about long-term care costs. Sophia sucks in a breath. They're planning to bankrupt you through fake medical expenses. Or actual ones, I realize. Look at this attachment. It's a life insurance policy I never knew existed, listing Karen as the sole beneficiary. $2 million, taken out 6 months ago when I was supposedly getting a routine physical that turned into additional tests the insurance company required. They're not just planning to rob you, Sophia says quietly. They're planning to replace you. I photograph everything, download files to multiple encrypted drives, create backups of backups. My engineering training takes over, turning horror into systematic documentation. Every crime needs to be provable in court. Then we hear footsteps in the hallway. Sophia frantically covers the cameras while I scramble to close programs and remove the USB drive. We duck behind Oliver's desk as someone unlocks the outer office door. It's the night janitor, humming something cheerful as he empties trash cans and vacuums the reception area. We stay frozen for 20 minutes while he works his way through the suite, certain that any second he'll notice something wrong. A file out of place, a computer screen still warm, 2 people hiding where they shouldn't be. Finally he leaves, and we can breathe again. We need to go, Sophia whispers. But I'm not finished. There's one more folder I haven't opened. Contingency plans. Inside, I find documents that make everything else look like petty crime. They have exit strategies, I tell her. Not just from their marriages, but from the country. Fake passports, bank accounts in non-extradition countries, property purchases in places that don't honor U.S. warrants. Sophia looks over my shoulder as I scroll through the files. When? Next spring. They're planning to disappear after they've liquidated everything. I find a timeline document that reads like a military operation. Look at this. They've been planning this for over 2 years. Every weekend getaway, every business trip. Every lie has been building toward this moment. The final document in the folder is titled Cleanup Protocol. It outlines how they plan to frame their disappearance as kidnapping or murder, leaving their spouses as grieving widows and widowers, and primary suspects. We have to get out of here, Sophia says, but I'm already copying the last files. 30 more seconds. Now, Jack, we have to go now. We pack everything and head for the elevator, moving fast, but not running. In the garage, Sophia's hands shake as she starts her car. Did you get what we need? She asks. I got enough to put them away for life. I hold up 3 USB drives: financial fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit murder, tax evasion, charity fraud, and about 6 other felonies I can't even pronounce. We drive to an all-night diner in Evanston, needing bright lights and other people after the darkness of what we've discovered. Over coffee and pie neither of us touches, we plan the next phase. We need a lawyer, Sophia says. Someone who specializes in white-collar crime. We need the FBI. This is way beyond local cops. We need to be careful about timing. If we move too fast, they might run. If we move too slow, they might finish whatever they're planning. I think about Karen at home, probably asleep in our bed, dreaming about her new life with Oliver while planning my destruction with the same methodical care I once admired in her interior design work. There's something else, I tell Sophia. I found emails about accelerating their timeline. They're not waiting until spring anymore. What do you mean? I think they're planning to disappear in the next few weeks, right after Oliver's conference presentation. Sophia goes pale. The Financial Innovation Summit. He's giving the keynote address on sustainable charity funding. When? Tomorrow afternoon. The irony is so dark, it's almost funny. Oliver is going to speak publicly about ethical charitable giving hours before we expose him for stealing from those same charities. That's our deadline then, I decide. We have 18 hours to get this evidence to the right people. What if they run before then? They won't. Oliver's too arrogant, and Karen's too invested in playing the long game. They think they're smarter than everyone else. That's going to be their downfall. We split up at dawn, Sophia heading home to maintain her normal routine, while I drive back to Bloomington with a car full of evidence that could destroy 2 lives. I should feel guilty about what we've done, but instead I feel something I haven't experienced in years. Clarity. Karen is making breakfast when I walk in, still wearing yesterday's clothes and probably smelling like coffee and stress. She looks up with concern that might even be genuine. "You look terrible. Was Mike okay?" "Mike's fine," I lie. "We just stayed up too late talking about old times." She kisses my forehead, and for a split second, I see the woman I married 35 years ago, caring, attentive, worried about my well-being. Then I remember the insurance policy with her name on it, and the moment passes. "I'm going to shower and catch a few hours of sleep," I tell her. "Good idea. Oh, and I'll be out this afternoon. Book club is discussing that new thriller everyone's talking about." Book club. Right. I head upstairs, leaving Karen to her lies and her breakfast and her plans for my systematic destruction. In 18 hours, everything will change. The only question is whether justice will move faster than betrayal. I don't sleep. Instead, I spend 3 hours organizing the evidence with the same precision I once brought to system architecture diagrams. Every file gets labeled, cross-referenced, and backed up to multiple locations. By 9 a.m., I have 3 complete packages ready, one for federal investigators, one for financial journalists, and one for my own insurance, locked in a safety deposit box under an alias I created years ago for a consulting project. Sophia calls at 9:30. I found a contact at the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit through my brother-in-law, Agent Sarah Chen. She specializes in nonprofit fraud. Can we trust her? She's the one who took down that fake veterans charity in Detroit last year, made national news. Set the meeting today. Already did. Noon at the Federal Building. I'm driving down now. I tell Karen I'm meeting a potential client about a network security audit, close enough to the truth that I can deliver it convincingly. She barely looks up from her laptop, probably coordinating with Oliver about their afternoon plans. "Don't work too hard," she says absently. "You've seemed stressed lately." If she only knew. The Federal Building in Chicago feels like a fortress, all concrete and metal detectors and serious-faced agents. Agent Chen is younger than I expected, maybe 40, with the kind of sharp intelligence that makes you feel like she's reading your thoughts. Sophia and I sit across from her in a sterile conference room, our USB drives and printed evidence spread across the table like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. "This is substantial," Chen says after reviewing our materials for 20 minutes. "Financial fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. But I need to ask why you obtained this information through illegal means." "Because our spouses are planning to frame us for murder," I tell her flatly. She looks up from the documents. "Excuse me?" Sophia slides another file across the table. Page 12 of the contingency plan. They've researched how to make disappearances look like kidnappings, including scenarios where the surviving spouse becomes the primary suspect. Chen reads in silence, her expression growing darker. Finally, she looks up. "How long do we have?" "Oliver's speaking at the Illinois Financial Innovation Conference this afternoon," I explain. "We think they're planning to disappear immediately after. Maybe tonight, maybe this weekend." "That's not enough time for a full investigation." "Then don't investigate," Sophia says. "Arrest them." "I can't arrest someone based on stolen documents." "You can arrest them based on public evidence," I counter. "Everything we found in Oliver's office has corresponding records in regulatory filings, charity databases, tax documents. We just gave you the roadmap." Chen considers this. "If I put together a rapid response team, can you guarantee they'll be at the conference?" "Oliver's giving the keynote at 4 p.m. Karen will probably be there too. She likes to watch her boyfriend's public appearances." "And you'll both be there?" Front row seats, I confirm. Chen starts making phone calls. Within an hour, we have federal agents coordinating with IRS criminal investigators, SEC enforcement, and the Chicago field office. It's like watching a machine come to life, all the pieces clicking into place with mechanical precision. One more thing, Chen tells us as we prepare to leave. After today, your lives are going to change dramatically. Are you prepared for that? I think about Karen making breakfast this morning, humming softly while planning my destruction. Agent Chen, our lives already changed. We're just making it official. The Illinois Financial Innovation Conference is exactly what you'd expect. 500 financial professionals in expensive suits, talking about disrupting traditional models while maintaining their own comfortable positions at the top of the food chain. The venue is the Palmer House Hotel, all gilded ceilings and crystal chandeliers, the kind of place where deals worth millions get made over cocktails. I buy a premium ticket and take a seat in the third row, close enough to see Oliver's face when everything falls apart. Sophia sits across the aisle, sunglasses on despite the indoor lighting, looking like a widow at a funeral, which, in a way, she is. Oliver takes the stage at exactly 4 p.m., confident and polished in a navy suit that probably costs more than most people's monthly salary. His topic: ethical innovation in charitable giving, building sustainable frameworks for social impact. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Ladies and gentlemen, he begins, we live in an era of unprecedented opportunity to make a meaningful difference in the world. But with that opportunity comes responsibility. The responsibility to ensure that every dollar donated reaches those who need it most. I scan the audience and spot Karen in the 5th row, wearing the green dress I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. She watches Oliver with obvious pride, probably imagining their future together built on the ruins of other people's generosity. Oliver is 15 minutes into his presentation when I see them. 2 men in dark suits standing at the back of the room, badges visible but subtle. Agent Chen and her team are in position. The key to successful charitable innovation, Oliver continues, is transparency. Donors need to know exactly where their money goes, how it's being used, and what impact it's having on the communities we serve. He clicks to the next slide. A chart showing donation flows through various organizations, including Arcturus Global Wellness Fund. If the audience knew what we know, they'd realize they're looking at a blueprint for systematic theft. At 4:32, Oliver starts taking questions from the audience. A woman in the front row asks about regulatory oversight. A man near the back inquires about international compliance standards. Oliver answers each question with smooth confidence, painting himself as a thought leader in ethical finance. Then Agent Chen walks down the center aisle. The audience doesn't notice at first. She could be any conference attendee approaching the microphone for a question. But I see Oliver's face change the moment he recognizes her. The color drains from his cheeks, and his practiced smile becomes strained. "Mr. Whitmore," Agent Chen says, her voice carrying clearly through the hotel ballroom. "I'm Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. We'd like to speak with you." The silence in the room is absolute. 500 financial professionals sit frozen, unsure whether they're witnessing a demonstration or a real arrest. Oliver attempts to maintain his composure. "I'm sorry, but I'm in the middle of a presentation. Perhaps we could. Now, Mr. Whitmore." 2 more agents appear at the sides of the stage. The reality of the situation hits the audience in waves, gasps, murmurs, the scraping of chairs as people turn to get a better view. Karen shoots to her feet, looking frantically around the room like a trapped animal. She locks eyes with me for one terrible moment, and I see the exact second she realizes what's happened. Her face goes through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, fury, fear, before settling into something I've never seen before: pure hatred. "You bastard," she mouths across the room. The agents escort Oliver off stage while Agent Chen addresses the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the interruption. The conference will continue with the scheduled afternoon sessions." But nobody's thinking about afternoon sessions. Everyone's pulling out phones, calling colleagues, texting contacts in the media. By tomorrow, Oliver's arrest will be front-page news in every financial publication in the country. I follow the crowd out of the ballroom, keeping Karen in sight. She's pushing through the lobby, phone pressed to her ear, probably trying to call a lawyer or warn other conspirators. I don't try to intercept her. That's not my job anymore. Outside the hotel, I watch through the windows as Karen gets into her car. She sits behind the wheel for several minutes, probably processing the magnitude of what just happened. Then she drives away, heading north toward the interstate, going home to pack, most likely. Or maybe to run. My phone buzzes with a text from Sophia. "It's done." I text back, "Just the beginning." The drive back to Bloomington gives me time to think about what comes next. Karen will probably try to claim innocence, paint herself as another victim of Oliver's schemes. She'll hire expensive lawyers and play the role of betrayed wife, shocked to discover her lover's criminal activities. But the evidence doesn't lie. Her signatures are on too many documents, her involvement too extensive, her knowledge too detailed. She helped plan every aspect of their crimes, including the destruction of our marriage and the theft of our future. I arrive home at 8 p.m. to find Karen packing suitcases in our bedroom. She doesn't look up when I enter, just continues folding clothes with mechanical precision. "Going somewhere?" I ask. "My sister's. I need time to think." "About what?" She finally looks at me, and her eyes are red from crying. Whether from grief or frustration, I can't tell. About how my husband of 35 years could destroy my life over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I never meant for any of this to happen. Oliver convinced me that his charity work was legitimate. I had no idea. Stop. The word comes out harder than I intended. Just stop. I walk to my desk and pull out a printed copy of one of her emails to Oliver, the one where she jokes about my predictable routines and describes me as dependable but boring. I drop it on the bed next to her suitcase. "You co-signed 3 Cayman Islands bank accounts," I tell her. "You helped establish shell companies in Nevada, Delaware, and Wyoming. You authorized wire transfers totaling over $2 million from charitable donations." Her face hardens. "You went through my private communications." "Your private communications about stealing from cancer patients and disaster victims." "It wasn't supposed to be like this." Her voice cracks. "We were going to start fresh, build something real together. The money was just meant to give us options." "Options built on other people's suffering," she snaps. "You think you're so righteous, sitting in judgment of me? You have no idea what it's like being married to someone who treats life like a software program. Everything scheduled, everything predictable, everything safe and boring and dead. So, you decided to kill me. The life insurance policy, the medical expense planning, the contingency protocols that involve me disappearing under mysterious circumstances." She stares at me, and for the first time in 35 years of marriage, I see her clearly, not as my wife, not as the mother of my children, not as the woman I once danced with in our living room. I see her as she really is, a stranger who wore my wife's face while planning my destruction. "Get out," I tell her. "This is my house too." "Not anymore. The FBI froze all accounts associated with Arcturus Global Wellness Fund. That includes the joint account you've been using to funnel stolen money. As of this afternoon, you don't have access to anything." She finishes packing in silence, moving through our bedroom like she's erasing herself from it. At the door, she turns back. "You'll regret this," she says. "When you're sitting alone in this house, eating frozen dinners and watching game shows, you'll remember what you threw away." What I threw away was 35 years of lies. What I found was 35 years of evidence. She leaves without another word, her suitcases rolling across the hardwood floor we refinished together 10 years ago, past the family photos that no longer mean anything, out the front door and into a future that no longer includes me. I stand at the window and watch her drive away, her taillights disappearing into the November darkness. Tomorrow she'll probably be arrested. Next week she'll be arraigned on federal charges. Within a year, she'll be wearing orange jumpsuits instead of designer clothes. But tonight, for the first time in months, I'm alone in a house that feels like home again. The silence isn't empty. It's peaceful. The walls don't echo with lies and betrayal. They hold memories of a life I built with honest work and genuine love, even if that love wasn't returned. I pour myself a whiskey, Jameson, not the expensive stuff Karen preferred, and sit in my chair by the window. Outside, snow begins to fall, the first of the season, covering the suburbs of Bloomington in clean white silence. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "You think it's over? You better watch your back." Oh. I screenshot the message and forward it to Agent Chen, then respond, "No need to watch my back. You won't have a view where you're going." The snow falls harder, and I finish my whiskey in the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. They thought I was just a boring engineer who could be easily discarded. They forgot that engineers build things that last, and when something breaks, we don't just fix it. We make it better than before. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in my new apartment near Lake Harriet, watching the morning sun paint the water silver. The place is smaller than the house Karen and I shared, but it's mine. Clean walls, simple furniture, no ghosts lurking in the corners, no lies buried in the foundation. The moving process was therapeutic, sorting through 35 years of accumulated life, deciding what deserved to come with me into whatever comes next. Most of it stayed behind. Photo albums, wedding gifts, furniture we'd chosen together. I kept my father's toolbox, my engineering journals, a first-edition copy of The Old Man and the Sea that I'd owned since college. The essentials. There's a letter waiting on my kitchen counter when I get back from my morning jog, slipped under the door sometime during the night. Karen's handwriting on the envelope, desperate and shaky. I don't read it immediately. Instead, I make coffee, scramble some eggs, sit down at my small table overlooking the lake. The letter is 3 pages long, rambling and defensive. She's staying at her sister's in Wisconsin, apparently. Her lawyer thinks they can work out a plea deal if she cooperates fully with the federal investigation. She swears she never meant for things to go as far as they did. She claims she still loves me, that Oliver manipulated her, that she was just lonely, and made terrible choices. I read it once, then carry it to the sink and hold a match to one corner. The paper curls and blackens, Karen's words disappearing in small flames. The smoke alarm doesn't even have time to activate before it's all ash, swirling down the drain with the cold water. The news coverage has been extensive. Financial advisor's charity fraud scheme exposed by anonymous whistleblowers. Suburban couple's double life, love affair, leads to federal investigation. Oliver made the front page of the Chicago Tribune twice, once for his arrest, once for his suicide attempt in federal custody. Apparently, facing 25 to life in prison was more than his inflated ego could handle. Karen's name appears in the court documents as cooperative witness under investigation. Her social media accounts have vanished. The friends we shared don't call anymore, probably don't know what to say to the man whose wife helped steal from children's cancer funds. I don't miss them. My phone buzzes with a text from Sophia. "Coffee? I have news." We meet at the same cafe where we first planned Oliver's downfall. She looks different, lighter somehow, like she's been carrying a heavy weight and finally set it down. Her divorce was finalized last week. She kept the house, got full custody of the kids, and received a settlement that will keep them comfortable while she rebuilds. "How are you holding up?" she asks, stirring sugar into her latte. "Better than expected. You?" "Same. It's weird, isn't it? I thought I'd be more broken." I know what she means. For months, I expected to feel devastated by the end of my marriage. Instead, I feel relieved, like waking up from a bad dream, or getting the results of medical tests that rule out something terrible. "Any word on sentencing?" I ask. Oliver took a plea. 15 years. Minimum security if he makes full restitution. Karen's lawyer is pushing for probation and community service. Will she get it? Doubtful. The federal prosecutor wants to make an example. Stealing from charities plays really badly with juries. We sit in comfortable silence for a moment. Two people who've been through something together that most others could never understand. Not just betrayal, but the systematic dismantling of the lies we'd built our lives around. "I've been thinking about something," Sophia says. "That community center project I mentioned, the one for at-risk kids. What about it? I want to do it. Really do it. Not just talk about it over charity luncheons, but actually build something meaningful." She explains her vision. A place where kids from broken homes can learn practical skills, get mentoring, find stable adult figures in their lives, computer programming, basic engineering, financial literacy. The kinds of things that might have prevented some of the damage Oliver and Karen caused. "I'd like your help," she says, "with the technical side, the systems planning. You're good at building things that work." I consider this. 6 months ago, my biggest worry was whether Karen and I should refinish the deck or take a vacation to Florida. Now I'm being offered the chance to help create something genuinely useful, something that might prevent other families from experiencing what we've been through. What would you need from me? Partnership. Real partnership this time. The word hangs between us, loaded with meaning we both understand. Partnership built on honesty instead of deception, shared goals instead of hidden agendas, trust earned through action rather than assumed through proximity. "I'm interested," I tell her. "Good, because I already put your name on the incorporation papers." I laugh. Actually laugh for the first time in months. You were that confident? I was that hopeful. We spend the rest of the morning sketching plans on napkins, talking about funding and staffing and the 1,000 practical details that turn good intentions into functioning reality. It feels familiar, but different, like using skills I've always had for purposes I've never considered. Walking back to my car, I think about the strange mathematics of loss and recovery. Karen took 35 years of my life, but in trying to destroy me, she forced me to discover parts of myself I'd forgotten existed. The methodical thinking that made me a good engineer also made me a thorough investigator. The patients that she found boring turned out to be exactly what was needed to build an airtight case against her. The man she dismissed as predictable and weak systematically dismantled her entire criminal enterprise. That evening, I'm cooking dinner when my daughter calls from Seattle. Jessica, now 32, married to a good man, mother to twin boys I see too rarely. "Dad?" I saw the news about Mom. "I figured you would. Are you okay?" The question deserves a real answer. I'm better than okay, sweetheart. I'm free. Free. Free to be myself without apologizing for it. Free to build something new instead of maintaining something that was already broken. We talk for an hour. Really talk, not just the surface conversations we'd fallen into over recent years. She tells me about the boys' soccer season, about her promotion at the architecture firm, about plans to visit at Christmas. For the first time in years, I'm genuinely excited about having family in my home. After we hang up, I pour myself a glass of wine, a good bottle, not the cheap stuff I used to buy because Karen preferred expensive brands, and step out onto my balcony. The lake stretches out below, dark water reflecting the city lights like scattered stars. Tomorrow, I'll start working on Sophia's community center project. Next week, I'll drive to Chicago for Karen's sentencing hearing, not to support her, but to see justice done. Next month, I'll host Christmas dinner for Jessica's family in my new apartment, creating traditions that belong to the life I'm building instead of the life I'm leaving behind. The November air is crisp, but not cold. Somewhere across the lake, other people are dealing with their own betrayals, their own discoveries, their own painful awakenings. But tonight, in this moment, I'm exactly where I need to be. A text from Sophia lights up my phone. Pancakes or waffles tomorrow, planning the community center menu. I text back. Both. New rule. We get both. I smile and slip the phone back into my pocket. The stars reflect off the lake's surface, and I think about second chances, about the difference between settling for what you're given and fighting for what you deserve. They thought I was just a spare part in their machine, easily replaced when something better came along. What they didn't realize is that spare parts are usually the most durable components, built to last, designed to function under pressure, engineered to keep working long after the flashier pieces have broken down. I finish my wine and head inside. Tomorrow starts a new chapter, and I'm finally ready to write it.